Well, I think it's inappropriate. I don't want to reinforce that defiling the Capitol was okay. I don't want to do anything that would make this more likely in the future. I want to deter people who did what on January the 6th, and those who did it, I hope they go to jail and get the book thrown at them because they deserve it.
Lindsey Graham was former military prosecutor. He's talking about Donald Trump on Saturday night, saying that if he's reelected, he would consider pardoning the participants in the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Michael Steele, when I hear stuff like that from Lindsey Graham, I always think, there he is. There's that old Lindsey Graham. He's got a spine. He's going to stand up to Donald Trump. And, of course, I don't know how long that ever lasts. But in the end, tell me how these Republicans who have at times sounded like they're standing up to Donald Trump have folded.
They don't. Look, to Lindsey's point, yeah, you know, they must have thrown the book at them because they deserve it until Donald Trump tells them they don't. And then what's he going to do? He's going to come on airwaves across the country and make the excuse for why Donald Trump's decision to, you know, give these people their freedom to pardon them is okay. So here's the rub. The reality of it is for Lindsey Graham, Susan Collins, who can't seem to decide after she voted to impeach the guy, that, yeah, I can't vote for him again. The reality is this. If you give Donald Trump another bite at that apple, he will take it and run it down your throat. He'll shove it down your throat. You're on that list, too. Don't sit there and get this twisted and believe that somehow because you stand in proximity to Donald Trump and you go out here and blast back, you know, his narrative and his crazy, that when push comes to shove, that you're going to be off the list when they start rounding people up and prosecuting people, holding hearings, et cetera. Unless your name is Michael Flynn and you're that far up the tree, if you know what I mean, you don't get the sanctity and the safety of being in Trump's orbit. We've seen time and time again. Y'all need to read Michael Flynn's book. You need to listen with Michael, Trump's lawyer. I got Flynn on the brain.
He's about Michael Cohen.
Yeah, Michael Cohen. You've got to listen to what he tells you because he should know. And there's a lot of truth in that reality. And I don't think a lot of people are being realistic when it comes to Donald Trump and specifically how much he appreciates them, because he don't.
Yeah, you make an interesting point there. I think there are a lot of people who don't ever want to hear anything from Michael Cohen, but it is useful to hear what he knows about Donald Trump. It quite informs your thinking about what Donald Trump's likely to do, and he's still a major presence for us. In fact, Vicky, Tim Miller at The Bulwark wrote this about Donald Trump's anti-democratic salvos most recently. He says, unless and until the gods of the actuarial tables intervene, excising Trump from the GOP was always going to require political pain. Cancer doesn't get removed without surgery, and chemo and the treatment sucks. The most likely answer is that Republicans are actually fine with the status quo and prefer the pain of dealing with Trump to the pain of losing power. The idea, Victoria, of dealing with Trump versus losing power is something Republicans are going to have to come to terms with in the next few months and the next 2 years.
They're going to have to come to terms with it, but I'm also going to wonk out and bring in the institutional factors that have really seen our parties go to extremes, you know, starting with the fact that we have our primary system where we see winning happening when you run to the extremes. The fact that most of our states, not all of our states, are redistricted by partisan commissions, that creates a very partisan environment where you have very, very safe districts and folks do not have the incentive to work across the aisle. So there are all of these institutional pieces that reinforce that point where folks know that they cannot maybe do what's in their heart of hearts and maybe do what's right and push up against Trump, because they know that institutionally they are not only not going to be rewarded, but they're going to be punished. So there's a double fear here. And at the end of the day, election seeking is the number one goal of elected officials. That is the goal that they went into this with, in addition to public service, but also that aspiration to stay in power with the hopes of doing something good. But that doesn't always turn out.
Well, I think that's great that you point that out. Obviously, everybody who seeks elected office is not looking to hold on to power for all eternity and do bad things with it. Michael Steele, you're one of them. But that institutional point is valid, right? That at this point, if you're a Republican who wants to denounce Donald Trump, you just may not be around in your position to do so.
Well, that's exactly right. But you have to decide what your public service is about. Is your public service about the people who entrust you to represent them, to be, an extension of their interest and their concerns and help them as best you can to make government work for them? Or is the course about being loyal to one person or one party? Look, when you take the oath of office as an elected official, you take the oath to represent the people under the Constitution of your state and the Constitution of our country. You don't stand there and swear an oath to Donald Trump. So all these Republicans running around here, acting like pure fools and bastardizing the oath that they took, and undermining the Constitution, not only should be ashamed, but should be removed from office because they've given up on what the value of public service is about. It's not about your self-interest and your reelection. It's about doing the damn job the best you can in the time that people give you to do it. Now, that falls back on us too, Ali, that we have to recognize as citizens that we need to check these fools when they get the way we see them behaving right now, if you want the system to stay on the correct course. Because if you don't, guess what? January 6th happens over and over and over again.
Yep. It's a good warning to bring to us and an admonition for all of us as citizens that this is our work, too. Thank you to the two of you. I'm deeply appreciative. Victoria DeFrancesco Soto and Michael Steele for your insight on this Monday.